The Gourmet Gladiator. Chapter 15. Toby in the World. As we head inside of the shelter, everyone is happy and serving dinner. Potato soup was being eaten as the others giggled and chatted among themselves as their stomach got fat and full. Charles walks over and gets 2 bowls full of soup and brings me one of the bowls. We quietly sit down at the table near the entrance and eat. I thank Jax and Tam for cooking after thanking Charles for getting me the bowl. I walked up the stairs into my room, and the first thing I did was fall face first on my bed. I turn over on my back and stare up into the wall. Luke walks into my room and stares at me with his face scrunched up and his eyes wide. His clothes are soaked in sweat, and you could tell by the smell. I sit up on my bed and look at him. My eyes were red and my whole body was tired. My hands hurt just by looking at them, but Luke looks as if his mind was causing him to have massive migraines. So Charles told you what's happening with Roxy? Luke asks. I don't have my head up and down. Then you're going to help me get her right. I stand up and raise an eyebrow at him. What's your idea? I ask. Simple. We transform and we break into his mansion and just kidnap her. It won't be that simple. If we do this, then we have to kill someone. Because that will stop the problem at the source and give everyone else a fighting chance in this world. And that means we could use help. And unless you know some people in high places, then we should stop talking and just wait for her to come back. I go to sit down on my bed, but Luke transforms into a giant werewolf in front of me. Yeah, I can cover that bit. All I need is your backup. This was crazy. Was I really going to let him commit murder to get this one girl back? Just so that in a couple years I take over the place and force the same situation on these people. Count me in. I'll do anything to help the person that would take the chance for me. But we can't let anyone here know. Luke nods his head in agreement. Then we leave now. He recedes back to his normal form before walking out of my room and closing the door behind him. I sit down and just shake my head in disbelief. I can't wrap my head around what I'm about to do. I know he's waiting for you, but you're going to commit murder. The shrink shouts from somewhere. I jump as my eyes scan the room only to find nothing. I don't have time for this. All I want to know is if you're going to become a problem. Nothing but silence in return. I don't have time for your answer. I'm going, and hope you don't tell anyone about this. I walk out of the room and downstairs where Charles is out front talking to Luke. I peered through the window but couldn't make out what they were saying to each other. But Charles's face was frowning as his arms were down to his side and open. He was worried and freaking out what was going to happen tonight. And Luke was furious as he threw his head up and his mouth open as if he was shouting. I walk out of the shelter and their argument seems to quickly cease. Come with me, Toby, Luke says as he begins to walk towards the mansion. Charles looks at me and then at the ground in disappointment. I walk past him and pat him on the shoulder. I catch up to Luke as he stomps away. What was all that about? Luke doesn't say a word back and instead just quietly stomps on. The night was falling and stars and moon were rising into the sky. The lights on the city all turn on, making everything just a little more eerie. I was able to pat Luke's shoulder before we both transformed just a couple blocks away from the mansion. My form was bigger and with it more muscle and slick black hair. We jumped onto the roof of a nearby house, and from there it was more efficient traveling towards the mansion. We stopped to hide behind the houses right across from Harold's mansion. Luke turns towards me with his fangs bared. We are going in there and out once we find Roxy. You'll be the one to take her as I finish business. Whatever happens, deny everything, and if I fail, don't give Roxy back to that man. I nod my head yes before we bolt towards the mansion, bolting over the wall and smashing the cameras on the ground beneath our claws. I felt powerful as metal and glass shattered beneath me. Luke and I dashed forwards towards the windows, and as luck was shining down on us, there was still one window lit up. We dug our claws into the stone of the wall and began to scale the wall. Crack, crack, crack. We were not being silent in the least. Every time we dug our claws into the stone, I could feel the mansion shake in terror as we moved up it. It was powerful as we lunged into the lit-up window. My huge frame was barely able to squeeze into the room, and there I saw Harold on his bed with his eyes wide open as he threw his silk-red blankets over his nude body. Luke bursts into the room and we both let out a thunderous roar that shook the mansion. Harold screams in terror at the sight of both of us. Luke charges towards him and grabs Harold by the neck, lifting him out of the comfort of his sheets. Where is she? I shout intimidatingly as I push Luke to the side and pin Harold to his bed by his neck. I don't know who you're talking about, he squeals. I bare my fangs and growl in his face. Tell me now or die. Harold screams in my face as he punches and kicks my body. All a hopeless attempt to get me off of him. Find the girl, Luke says to me. I'll handle Harold here. I let go of Harold's neck and smile a sinister one as I step out of his room. I slam the door behind me, cracking the door as I did. Now I stood in a hallway with all sorts of fancy doors closed. Roxy, I called out, but not a word or whisper responded back. I went to the door one by one, opening and looking into the room. I found nothing. I got to the last door in the hallway and was hesitant to open it. Roxy, I slowly twist the handle and open the door. I tilt my head inside of the room. She was not there. I slammed the door readily as I let out a roar of anger. I get on all fours and run around the mansion looking and trying to use my canine-like hearing and smell to find something in the least. I stopped by the kitchen and no maid nor chef was there, and not only that, but there was only one plate, one wine glass, and one fork in the sink. He was here alone. I run back as fast as I could on all fours, my claws digging into the rug and marble floor as I lunge forwards to the door where Luke and Harold should be. I ran through the door, scattering wood chips all across the room. There I saw Luke and Harold standing across each other, with Harold giving Luke a briefcase full of money. What is happening here, Luke? I ask in confusion as my claws ache to tear into him. Roxy was sent back to her room this morning. I had to bribe Charles into persuading you that she was here. Of course, though, that bastard had to tell you that she wouldn't want that and try to convince you that she wouldn't want you to come. What bullshit. Luke closes the case full of money and smiles at me. But of course this is all business. See, Harold here can't be seen helping the homeless because you did all the work. And I saw a profit in that. See, I told him that he could get a piece of Roxy and use her however he likes, and on top of that start a profitable homeless shelter. But the only thing stopping this whole thing of mine from working is that the place that I will be calling home will only benefit him. Luke swings his claws, slicing Harold's throat. Harold gasps for air as he falls to his knees. Blood runs down his neck like a river in front of me. Now don't get this twisted. I want everyone at the homeless shelter to be the best they can be. But with Roxy and Harold trying to either be inspiring or make profit from them, I had to go to these lengths to have full control and make more smart investments. Such as getting rid of the person that might bring the whole plan of mine crashing down. So I'm framing you for this whole thing and I'm going to get away with it. He then turns to the window with a case in his grasp. You're going to have to stop me from tearing you to pieces first. I growl as I pounce towards him. Luke turns his head and smiles. He swings the case down at me. I push through the pain as the case slams into the back of my neck and tackle Luke out the window. As we fall, we lash out with our claws and fangs like a pair of wild dogs. Smack, crack, roll. The landing on the ground was painful as I could feel my arm being snapped in half. But when I turned my head, I saw that Luke had the suitcase in hand but was limping away from the mansion. I burst with power and muscles grew, the bones in my body shatter and mend back together, my face contorts into a bigger muzzle as my fangs grew thicker and bigger, my claws grew into scythe-like claws. And my feet arches into claw feet. I was now taller than the wall itself. More scary in the rainy night time. Luke looks behind him and nearly turns white at the sight of me walking towards him. I growl and snap my jaws at him. He gets scared and stumbles to the ground. The case breaks open, scattering money everywhere. The sirens of police cars are wailing in the background as blue and red lights shine brightly over the other side of the wall. I howl into the night sky before running away. I didn't pick up money. I didn't say a word. Just begin running away as fast as my muscles could allow me to. I was pushing this power to its limit as I jumped over the back wall and ran through the streets, hiding and running through the shadows and sharp corners of the buildings. Thousands of things were bursting through my mind. I just witnessed a murder and my heart sunk down to my stomach. I wanted to throw up and tear Luke to pieces. I want to head straight to the homeless shelter and look for Roxy. I couldn't stop thinking about Charles, Roxy, or Harold for that matter. His lifeless eyes beating into mine as Luke tries to get away from me. Tears formed in my eyes as I ran. Oh God, why? I whisper to myself as I run away. His power began to fade away from my body as I raced back to normal. My clothes were ripped and I was now in the middle of an alley nearly naked. I walk out into the middle of the street, just with eyesight of the homeless shelter. I had nowhere else to go. So I walked towards the shelter and found that right outside the shelter Charles was sleeping in front of the door. His face was wet as was his whole body. The rain must have soaked him. I open the door and carry him inside. Everyone must be in their rooms already. I put Charles down at the side of the bar and let him sleep. I walk up the 2 flights of stairs, and once I turn to see Roxy's room, I stop. I open the door and nearly jump back out and into mine as I see Roxy on the floor nude with all sorts of pills sprung about the room. I ran to her and shook her shoulder. "Roxy," I shout. Her power rushed through me and this gave me hope that she was still alive. I hold up my hand and as light particles gather in one spot on my palm, I look at her. Her lips were blue and her skin was pale white. "Please don't die," I cry. I push the light particles into her chest. Nothing happens. "Wake up," I scream at her as I push another ball of light particles into her chest. Nothing happens. "Wake up," I continue screaming and pleading for her to wake up. Tears envelope my vision as I gather a huge ball of light particles in both of my hands. I push the giant ball of light into Roxy, hoping and praying that it would revive her. Roxy launches up into a sitting position, gasping. I threw my arms around her and cried into her shoulder. "I'm so happy that it worked. Please don't leave me," I happily say with tears in my eyes. The surprise was when she threw her arms around me and began to hug me back. "I won't," Roxy says as she lays her head into my chest.
And that was chapter 15, Toby in the World. Please like, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.